This is Tom Bain, and this is Wine, Money, and Song. Please press the like button and please subscribe if you enjoy the content and let other people know who are interested in wine. So in the last episode, we talked about how climate change has affected the wine industry in the production of wines. And the future, this episode will talk about how they're going to combat climate change and how the wine industry is going to mitigate all of the changes that have happened. Now, I want you people to think about this is a real thing. Back around 1990 in the 80s, all of a sudden in England, they started making sparkling wine. And everyone said, what? What are they doing there? It's too cold. It's too wet. They're not going to be able to do it. Well, guess what? England is making a lot of excellent sparkling wines now. Now, the soil where these vineyards are in England are very similar to the soils that are present in the Champagne area of France. So they have that limestone, chalky, minerally soil. And what was lacking was they didn't have enough warmth. And all of a sudden, Pommery and Taittinger have put their roots down in England, and they will be producing sparkling wines from England. That is a very serious thing. And who would have thought it? But change has come. So we have defined the problems that we have in the wine industry on combating global warming. How do we solve these problems? Well, there's going to be some drastic things that are in the works. Now, I'm sure it's going to take several decades. I don't see them ripping up the Napa Valley floor right away and getting rid of all the Cabernet, but there's going to have to be a lot of changes. So what methods can the wine industry use to mitigate the effects of global warming? First of all, a lot of wineries are going to start planting in the northern hemisphere. They're going to move further north and plant grapes farther up. I can tell you in Canada, British Columbia, they're planting grapes. Norway and Sweden, would you ever think that they would plant Chardonnay grapes up there? They're planting grapes up there. And that's incredible. And I went over England with you with the sparkling wine. But in the southern hemisphere, you go further south towards the South Pole, and vice versa. In the northern hemisphere, you go north, closer to the North Pole, and they'll be planting grapes there. Also, there'll be research in many of the universities, and I know in Bordeaux, they are experimenting with 7 grapes that are presently not approved to be grown in Bordeaux. And most of these varieties are suited for warmer climes like Portugal and Spain. And they're going to experimentally grow them and see if they can grow in Bordeaux. That's going to take a long time. But methods like that, they're going to have to investigate and find which grapes can make an interesting wine, because some of the grapes, you're not going to be able to make a balanced wine with the temperatures. So they're going to have to rely on other grapes grown in other warmer climes so they can apply it to their warming climate. And there'll be innovative methods studied about water management. Now, the one thing that's been happening, droughts have been all over the world. And it's a big problem. It's a big problem. And grapes need water. Vines need water. The water table needs to be replenished. And vines can only go down so far to find water. If there's no water in the water table, then irrigation. And the science of that, I'm sure, is going to mature, and you'll see more irrigation where there's not irrigation now. And they're playing around with having shades for the vines. I know in California, a few of the vineyards have fibrous shades that they put above, and it allows a certain amount of the UV rays onto the grapes, but it shades the others where it's not as extreme. Now, I can't see how that's going to be a large-scale problem solver there. But it's good they're looking at it. But what we have to understand is we're moving to these new areas, growing the grapes, and we're going higher up. And a place which was too marginal to grow grapes, they're going to go there because, first of all, it's not planted. It's open to be planted, and you don't have the searing heat that you have further down in the altitudes. But the other end of that is usually the higher you go up in altitude, the soil is poorer, and moisture is also less up on top. And it's harder to farm mountainous soils. But if they have to, they'll find ways through technology. Now, it's very interesting in Spain and in Argentina, especially Argentina and Chile. They have a wine culture there of centuries. And I know that the family Torres has all of a sudden started planting in Chile 3,500 feet up, 4,000 feet up, which no one ever did that because the Andes Mountains was always a cooler area, and winemaking, they've been making wines for centuries there. And Chile is the oldest New World wine area. They've been making wines long before they did in California there. And they're just going further up. And the same thing in Argentina, Cantina Zapata. They're going way up. They're going 10,000 feet up. No one, I don't recall many vineyards up 10,000 feet, but you have to go where the temperature is more suitable for these grapes. Now, another big change is you planted vineyards. You always wanted the southern exposure on the hill. So you got that last 2 hours of sun every day. Not anymore, because those 2 or 3 hours are shortening the harvest levels. So what a lot of winemakers are doing, they're changing their southern exposure to planting for northern exposure and northwestern exposure versus southeastern exposure. Now, if you can understand that, at the end of the day, you're on top of the hill and you get another hour or two because the sun is going down in the west. So you're facing southeast and you get more sunshine, more sun exposure. You change that around, you get less sun exposure from a northwestern juncture. So that's what they're looking into. And what's going to happen with that? The ones who are looking forward now will have 5 steps ahead of everybody else. And I don't have gloom and doom about this. I think they're going to work it out. Now, do I have confidence that the countries are going to solve for global warming? No, I don't. I don't. They're 60 years behind. And for us stopping this torrent of rising temperatures, I just don't see the world getting together and being unified with it. But I think they're going to find a way. Now, in 20 years, will the Napa Valley flora have some Grenache in it? Maybe. And there'll be experimental vineyards planted of all these warm climate grapes, and a lot of them are there already. And they'll make good wines from those. And all of a sudden, instead of buying a Napa Valley Cabernet, you're going to buy a Napa Valley Grenache. Or you're going to have a white variety from Italy grown Vermentino. You're going to start buying wines. If the wines have the quality, we will change. And it's a business. It's the wine business. And they will find a way to keep the industry prospering. And the people who are sitting on their hands, they'll be following. But the people, like I said, Cantina, Zapata, the Torres family, and people forward-thinking, the champagne growers that are now in England, that's where you have to go. And they'll find a way to make great wines because people want and need great wines.